What is up, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters? Welcome back to Chalk Talk, presented to you by Deal With It Productions. I'm Preston Deal, and yes, you heard that right. I control everything in that statement because we all know that betting on yourself is the surefire way to make sure you give maximum effort and take no days off. Speaking of off, these readers slash glasses are coming off. Let's adjust that there. Shout out to the fire department, Cabo San Lucas Fire Department down there in Mexico. Shout out to all the first responders, all the amazing men and women to put their life on the line, put their life on hold to make sure that we all as individuals have everything that we need as far as safety, protection, health, well-being, everything moving in the right direction. They are true heroes, and I'm super honored to be able to wear this fire department t-shirt, especially from Mexico, which is really cool, something that you don't really see around the United States all that often. Sure, there's a lot of firefighter gear, police gear. I've mentioned multiple times I have gear from all sorts of teams, all sorts of sports, all different things that I'll be highlighting throughout this show. I thought it was fitting today to wear the firefighter shirt, a team that has to be in unison, has to be on the same page 24/7, no matter what, to make sure that everybody that they're serving in their communities is taken care of with the utmost amount of love and care. Appreciate all you guys. I want you guys to all know, from everybody here at Chalk Talk, and myself included, everybody with the Deal With It Productions, we can't thank you guys enough for your service and what you guys do on a daily basis. My mother actually got me this. Her and her husband went down to Mexico, and they were kind of doing the whole vacation type of thing, stopped into a couple different fire stations, chatted with some of the brave men and women down there as well, got some gear and brought it back, which we like to represent and wear. Her brother, my uncle, was a firefighter, fire captain for Costa Mesa for a lot of years. He was tragically killed back in 2018. So we know the struggle. We've been through it, the ups and the downs with first responders as family members, and what that life is all about, what it looks like. Also, shout out to Rockstar Brain Fuel. This one actually only has 160 milligrams of caffeine. It's the original flavor, I think, sugar-free. So shout out to them. That one's pretty good. Like I said before, I'm trying to limit the amount of caffeine or sugar intake that I'm doing. Shout out to Rockstar. Thank you so much. We got these little packages, a bunch of different ones. That one has kind of been my favorite one. I'm more of like, I like the flavors, the orange and the watermelon and the mixtures that they come up with. A lot of these other energy drinks that I've been doing or have done in the past have like 300 plus milligrams. If you're one of those people, good on you. It makes me feel like I'm in some kind of tunnel vortex. I'm super locked in, super focused for like 24 straight hours. This one is very smooth, very nice. Rockstar really killing it. We've been lucky enough to have these readily available for us right here in the fridge in the studio. So shout out to them. Shout out to all the first responders. But today is Mock It Up Fridays. Mock draft day. We are taking everything that we saw from the combine, everything that we have seen in the initial free agency frenzy, the initial surge is what we'll call it, in the signings, the deals, the player acquisitions, the trades, the adding players, losing players, all of the chaos that we've seen already at the first 3 official days. And there's deals that are happening right now. I've been on the phone for about 2 straight hours. Prior to this, I've been working, getting information, talking to people that I know. Yes, I do have sources. Are those sources the same sources as like ESPN and Fox News and all of these different outlets? No, not necessarily. My sources are former players, former clients, coaches, people that just kind of have an ear on the ground or kind of in the mix 24/7 of the stuff that's going on. Is their stuff true? Who knows? Who knows what source is even true anymore? And let me tell you something. When you're presenting information, it's not always about is it right or is it wrong. It's more about the delivery of the message and making sure that you're delivering it in the concise, accurate way that you know how based on the information that you've been given. So I'm not going to say I'm sitting here breaking news. I will probably never be somebody that breaks news. But with that being said, mock draft. We're doing round one. It's going to be from the lens as if I'm the general manager. Of course, I'm putting on my general manager cap. We're not at the point yet where I think I can be doing a mock draft based on what I think these teams are going to do come April. We will get to that point, but this is my 2.0. Only round one. I'm not going in depth. I did a 7-round based off of what I've seen at the combine and what I've seen during free agency. But we're just going through the first round, the first 32 picks. I think in this draft, we're going to see a lot of guys that deserve top 15 picks. And they're going to slip into that late teens, early 20s, late 20s, maybe even into the second round based on teams and the needs and where some of these other players and position rankings kind of fall into place. I think if you are somebody that does a top 100, top 50, top 200 player list, it's really easy to force a player into that, oh, he's going pick 6, he's going pick 9, he's going pick 12 because he's my 5th best player, and now we're at pick 12. That's why I don't do those rankings. I stick to ranking guys based on position and where I think that they fit based on their position. Also coupled with team needs, I think by just throwing in a player that you have no need for just because he's higher on your list doesn't really do justice to what your team is needing to do moving forward. I'm going to give you guys that the round one. You can start to see right here. I'm going to put somewhere in this video the process so you can see 1 through 32. We'll break down each of those picks, why I think those picks are good for that team. Again, we don't do any trades. We don't do any of the chaos of moving people around or anything like that. Straightforward 1 through 32. I'm also going to kind of dig into what that team has done throughout this initial surge in free agency and kind of see where these players and why they fit into where they fit in, and how I think that they benefit that team. Let's do a couple housekeeping things before we jump into that. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, do the whole song and dance. To everybody that has done that has commented either publicly or reached out to me privately, who continues to watch and subscribe and be a part of this process, I can't thank you enough. You guys are absolutely amazing. Just even slightly tuning in, even if it's for 1 minute or the whole time that we do these. I know sometimes these videos do get a little long. There is a lot of information thrown throughout these videos. It's hard when you're just watching one person do it. You don't have a bunch of people or a whole team that you can kind of watch and see these ideas bounce off of. But I really do appreciate it. Everybody here at Chalk Talk and the Deal With It Productions family, can't thank you guys enough. We are going on the road March 23rd. We're going to the Anaheim Ducks game. We will be in Anaheim the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th of March. We are going to be doing a whole video, a whole show, a whole bunch of crazy chaos from the game. So we are going to be covering hockey. Hockey's in a great spot right now. I was watching games last night. There's fights, there's physicality. If you haven't watched a hockey game, or you're not somebody who's ever given hockey a chance, turn on one game. It doesn't matter who's playing. Hockey games are electric. There's not like two teams that are bad that are going to be going against each other. It's going to be boring. It's very fast paced. It's very aggressive. It's like the most aggressive legal form of beating the literal crap out of each other through a sport. It's very electric. There's a game on basically every single night. If you just watch the first 10 minutes of any game, you will be hooked. So tune into that. Keep up with us while we go on that process, on that journey. Selection Sunday for March Madness for college hoops is this Sunday, which is going to set up March Madness. And if anybody knows anything about college hoops, March Madness is one of the most energetic, most fun times to be a sports fan, especially to bet, to gamble. We always talk about gambling and bets and perfect bets and fantasy football. March Madness right now is the time to make bets. And I'm going to break down next week the bracket, what bets I'm going to be doing, best bets that I'll be looking at. I'm kind of going through that process. I know a lot of people that have lost a lot of money during March Madness. I know a lot of people that have made a lot of money during March Madness. So we're going to pull from some experts. We're going to start talking, getting some communication from people that do this for a living, people that are immersed in the basketball community, and we're going to kind of draw some ideas. I will give you my top teams. I'll release my bracket, and we will talk college hoops throughout the process of college March Madness tournament, the whole nine. We'll cover it. So sports are in a really good spot. I'm excited to be a part of the sports evolution and the journey. I think we started this show and these installments at the right time, and I don't think that there is a better time to be a sports fan than the present, than the moment, and right now is the time. So if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, anything you want clarity on, comment, like, shoot me a message. Do whatever you got to do. I will answer them. I will get back to you as soon as I can and make videos about it to help you guys out and help understand the direction that sports are going in. But Mock It Up Fridays, it's all about mock draft today. We are kicking off our weekend with the round 1 2.0 of my general manager mock draft. Let me get my paperwork. Like I said, I write everything down. And writing things down, will I ever change? Probably not. Pick number 1, the Tennessee Titans, who have held their cards very close to the chest. They haven't. This is what you get for talking with your hands. Things start going chaotic. Things start shaking and moving because you're running into everything. I'm going to work on getting this setup changed probably this weekend. I'm trying to figure out what I got going on, but regardless, we've already made some changes to the studio. We will continue to make changes. We need to start being able to house guests. I'm gonna work with Joe. I'm gonna get with him this weekend. Joe, my father-in-law. If you guys have watched the show before, you guys know Joe. He helps me kind of design and set things up. It will also be a very good way to get him on the show. To set it up, that will get him on the show. I know that there's been a lot of requests. All right. But Tennessee Titans, pick number 1. If I'm their general manager, I'm going Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. Right now, I think he is the clear-cut number 1 quarterback in this draft. He has really elevated himself to be in that sole conversation. I know Tennessee talks about generational talents. We want to draft the generational talent at number 1. We want that guy. People are talking about the Travis Hunter and the Abdul Carter, but nobody's really talking about what if Tennessee values Cam Ward as that generational talent. What if Cam Ward comes to Tennessee and plays 15 years, wins 2 Super Bowls, and now he's looked at as, oh yeah, that was the generational talent. Maybe they see Cam Ward as their future starter for years to come. We don't really know because they haven't really said a whole bunch. If I'm in that building, Cam Ward is my option. They've added a few pieces on that offensive line to kind of solidify. I don't even know if solidifying the offensive line is really what they've done. They've added some defensive pieces. They've made some moves that make me believe, okay, they kind of know what they're doing. No conversation about the quarterback. They haven't addressed the quarterback, haven't done anything in free agency to bring in a quarterback. They're not in on this Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers train. They haven't really made calls about Kirk Cousins, who supposedly wants to be a starter. It makes me believe that a quarterback is imminent at number 1, and I don't think that outside of Cam Ward, there's a guy that's worth betting at that number 1 pick for your organization, for your team. I'd go Cam Ward. I mean, I love the guy when he was at Washington State. I think he's going to have a great NFL career. That would be my pick if I was the Tennessee Titans. Pick number 2. Now, this has become a very interesting topic. The Cleveland Browns have the 2nd pick. I've said that I think bringing in a veteran quarterback along with Kenny Pickett would open up and free them up to move away from the quarterback conversation at 2. But right now, I would draft Jackson Dart, right? Some of these decision-making processes where you see him make these throws. It's like, what are you doing? What are you looking at? These critical crunch time moments. There's interceptions, there's sacks, there's bad throws, there's misplacements. But the overall raw ability to throw the ball, the overall ability to be successful in the Ole Miss offense, which is very challenging, and all the reports that we've heard about the way that that offense works, it's difficult to understand all the intricate pieces that go into it. I think his mind is there to be an NFL quarterback. I think he's going to flourish as an NFL quarterback. Putting Jackson Dart in a situation where there's competition, where you don't know Deshaun Watson's coming back. Is he coming back? Is he not coming back? Will he be the starter if he comes back? I have to play well in order to secure my spot here. Not only that, but you're in competition with Kenny Pickett, who now wants to be the starter. I think that will drive Jackson Dart to be even better than we think that he could be. And I think he could be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. I think he brings the moxie, the energy, and the overall ability, kind of in a weird way like Baker Mayfield did when they brought him in to kind of change the culture and the trajectory of that team. I think Jackson Dart's a winner. I think he will win in Cleveland. Cleveland has retained some of their pieces. Obviously, re-signing Myles Garrett was a huge addition for their defense. Bringing in Kenny Pickett allows for quarterback competition, allows you to be flexible in what quarterback you bring in, and kind of allows you to ride with Kenny Pickett if you don't want to start that rookie day one. In a way, I guess it's hard for me to speak on that because I'm a big fan of sitting quarterbacks. But are we going to sit a quarterback that we draft second overall? I don't know. Especially with Kenny Pickett there. Is Kenny Pickett a day one starter? These are question marks. So Cleveland Browns, second overall pick. I'm going Jackson Dart, quarterback out of Ole Miss. With the third pick, the New York Giants, I would select Shedeur Sanders. Sanders has been kind of linked to the Giants on and off for a long period of the offseason, and throughout the end of the season, we've seen the Giants cleats in the Colorado locker room and the warm-ups. I think he fits. I think Daboll down there does a good job with quarterbacks. I think he maximizes quarterbacks' full potential. Now, we sit here and we laugh at the New York Giants, but maybe Daniel Jones, that was his full potential. Maybe Tommy Cutlets, that was his full potential. We don't know until we see a really talented quarterback get into that system and play with the pieces around him to see what we have at quarterback. I think Shedeur Sanders fits the vibe, the mentality, the energy, the New York market. And yes, drafting Shedeur Sanders here is a huge thing that is kind of speaking that I don't think Russell Wilson lands in New York, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers lands in New York. I think there is a possibility that no veteran quarterback lands in New York, even though the Giants are all in on bringing in a quarterback. And even if they did, even if they brought in a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers or even traded for Kirk Cousins, bringing in a Shedeur Sanders to sit and let his body heal. I mean, this guy took more sacks than anybody in the history of football in 1 year, over 2 years really at Colorado. He is tough. He knows the sport of football. He was ingrained in his DNA to be an NFL player and an NFL quarterback by his dad. The legacy's there. I think he can handle the New York market really well. I think he is a better option for the New York Giants than Jackson Dart, and I think Jackson Dart is a better option for the Cleveland Browns than Shedeur Sanders. And I think they fall perfectly where they're supposed to be. I think all three of those guys, Ward, Dart, and Sanders, all have great careers with their respective teams that they get drafted to if they go 1, 2, and 3. Giants add also two very odd pieces to the offensive line. I don't know if they're day one starters, if they're depth and role players just in case. I think they have to go out and draft some real bona fide offensive linemen later, like round 2, 3, 4, and beyond. I think they're not done necessarily in free agency or acquiring an offensive lineman via trade. Pick number 4, Abdul Carter, the standout star defensive end out of Penn State to the New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel has done an exceptional job of doing something that people in New England haven't seen almost ever. They have gone out and they have spent money The New England Patriots are spending money, and the one thing that they're doing is they are investing in that defense. They are loading up on the defense. Mike Vrabel knows that defense wins championships. They pay Milton Williams a boatload of money, an athletic freak on that inside of the interior defensive line. Adding Abdul Carter with the other pieces, they bring in Landry, who's a consistently reliable edge player. They have Keon White, who has been a little bit up and down. Having these young stars coupled with a guy who's been known to be productive in Landry, with a guy and a head coach like Mike Vrabel that gets the most out of his players, it will be something special to watch, and I think Abdul Carter will shine in a New England Patriots uniform. It's hard to determine, is it going to be Carter or is it going to be Travis Hunter here at that number 4 pick? I think Abdul Carter has the edge in New England over a guy like Travis Hunter. Yes, you can play him on both sides of the ball. I think Mike Vrabel wants a guy that's going to show up, who's going to play football, who's going to get after it, who's going to work his ass off from day number 1 and be productive on that field. That is Abdul Carter. And like I said, the Patriots have spent so much money. And bringing in a guy like Carter just solidifies that you're going in the right direction. We are going to build from the trenches out. We are going to build defense and offensive line. We are going to make sure defense wins championships with a defensive-minded head coach. Perfect marriage. Pick number 5. Now, this is a little interesting because I don't do trades. But this is a spot where I think Jacksonville at 5 could trade. They could definitely trade out. But if they're sticking and picking, Jacksonville Jaguars at 5, and I'm the general manager, I'm drafting Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State. Guy's an offensive weapon. He's being compared baby Gronk. He's baby this, baby that. The guy is not a baby. This guy is a massive human being. He can stretch the field. He can block. He can play quarterback. He can play running back. He can play wide receiver. He could play defense if you needed him to. Jacksonville gets rid of Evan Ingram. Almost stumbled that whole name right there. They trade out Christian Kirk. They have Brian Thomas Jr., who's an explosive receiver. Good way to take pressure off of an explosive number 1 wide receiver is get a reliable tight end that can work the middle of the field, who can play multiple positions, who you can hand the ball off to, and is a good outlet source for Trevor Lawrence and maximizes Liam Cohen's offensive potential in his mind. I think this is a beautiful marriage. I think it will work really well, and I would not hesitate to take Tyler Warren here at 5 if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. If a quarterback is available, if one of these 3 quarterbacks, top 3 quarterbacks is available, there's a team that's lower, picks maybe, 7, 9, wherever in that range wants to come up and grab one of these quarterbacks, a trade is definitely, here we go again, just hitting everything. Today is one of those days. A trade could definitely take place, but Tyler Warren makes a lot of sense for the Jacksonville offense. Jacksonville in free agency has added 2 offensive linemen that I believe are potentially day 1 starters. Robert Hainsey, I watched the Pat McAfee show. I saw them talking about Robert Hainsey and the whole training process and who he is. As a Tampa Bay fan, I really like Robert Hainsey. He's played tackle, he's played guard, he's played center. He's a versatile offensive lineman. Plug him into any one of those 5 positions, he could be a starter day 1. And they bring in Makari from Baltimore, who's a guard, who had one of his better seasons. I'm surprised that Baltimore lets him go. I know that there's some cap situations. Jacksonville gets 2 guys, particularly interior offensive linemen, through free agency that opens them up to the possibility of drafting a fun, dynamic player like Warren right there at 5. Pick number 6, Travis Hunter. Yes, he falls outside of that top 5 to the Las Vegas Raiders, who have done a masterful job. Now, with Pete Carroll, with the Chip Kelly, and there's one thing that we know about Pete Carroll. He loves corners that are long, that can run, that can cover, that can catch. The Legion of Boom was literally designed on this idea. Smart, instinctual, long, fast corners that can catch. This is the guy. And not only that, you can give him 10 plays a game on offense with Chip Kelly's mind to maximize his athletic ability. Geno Smith, quarterback position, taken care of. Bring in Alex Kappa, interior offensive line help. Re-sign Max Crosby, Kuntz, a bunch of D linemen. Bring in some defensive players to bolster your defense. Add Travis Hunter into that defense. They're instantly better, and they are good because now you can use him on offense, where the receiver game, not so great for the Las Vegas Raiders at this moment. He makes them better on both sides of the ball, and if there's anybody that can maximize Travis Hunter's potential, it's Chip Kelly, it's Pete Carroll, it's Tom Brady and the ownership group falling in love with this guy, his athletic ability, bringing him in and letting him be the star right there in Las Vegas. It could work perfectly. If Travis Hunter makes it to 6, I would not be surprised if the Raiders snag him. I know I would. Pick number 7. This is a very interesting dilemma that I found myself in. I might have erased the pick like 6 different times. For the New York Jets, there's a lot up in the air. You go out and you sign Justin Fields. I would not necessarily be opposed to bringing in another quarterback if one of those 3 is available. In this simulation, in this situation, I'm drafting Mason Graham, the defensive tackle, interior D lineman, whatever you want to call it, out of Michigan. You pair this guy with what he's supposed to be, his potential, his overall ability that everybody is claiming he's going to have. And I agree. I think he is going to be a very good, explosive interior defensive lineman for a very long time in this league. Paired with a guy like Quinnen Williams, that is an interior disruption at the defensive tackle position. That D-line instantly gets better, and it gets to a point where they become dominant on the inside. And in that division, you have to be disruptive. The Jets have to get back to being that stone-cold defense that everybody always loved to watch and bet on them making stops when they need to. Mason Graham adds that component. I believe, and this is just me right now. I haven't seen Fields play or understood the offense that the Jets are going to run. But I believe that with Aaron Glenn as the head coach of the New York Jets, I believe that if Justin Fields sits with him and learns to read a defense through Aaron Glenn's mind, his defensive mind, I think the Jets might have hit on a quarterback here. I've been a fan of Justin Fields since he was in college. The biggest knock that I've had on Fields the whole time, I don't know if he can read the defense properly. And I don't know if anybody invested in teaching him how to read the defense properly because he hesitates. And when you hesitate at the quarterback position, you're not trusting what you're seeing or you don't know what you're seeing. This is a great opportunity for him to learn and have a freak number 1 wide receiver in Garrett Wilson to rely on and a great running game. Those 2 running backs, Hall and Allen, right now are as good of a duo as there is in the NFL. I think Justin Fields will succeed there, and I like what the Jets have done in free agency. I even have written down that they've worked the trenches. I think working the trenches in the draft is important, and I think a guy like Mason Graham, who will be healthy and who has NFL caliber starting ability day one, will just help that defense grow with a defensive-minded head coach. Number 8, the Carolina Panthers get an absolute weapon. I haven't changed this pick since I started doing mock drafts this year. Tet McMillan, the receiver out of Arizona. I'm not even going to attempt to say his first name. I've had so many people say it so many different ways. I don't even know the real way to say it. I saw some analysts call him Tet McMillan. I'm calling him Tet McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. The guy is almost 6'6". He's massive. His catch radius is insane. He's smooth. He's fluid. He could be very well the next Mike Evans. He could easily have 12 to 15 straight seasons at 1,000 yards receiving. He could be one of the next great receivers that we see run this league for a very long time. And for a quarterback like Bryce Young, who is playing better at the end of the season, who needs a reliable big target to throw the ball to, the shorter the quarterback is, the more you want to throw the ball higher to bigger receivers. Let him go up and get it. Let him let him high point it. It's an easier place to miss than having to fit it down low into the smaller receiver windows, especially when you're a smaller quarterback, because you're not getting the ball over the line of scrimmage. This guy is a playmaker, and he makes that team instantly better. They've made a lot of good moves in free agency. Carolina has positioned themselves to be competitive in that division and help the structure of what Bryce Young and that whole team is doing. I thought that they were playing great football at the end of the year. I actually bet on them the last 2 games of the season. We won those bets, which was fantastic. At the start of the season, I would have never touched a bet that had anything to do with the Carolina Panthers. Adding Ted McMillan makes them competitive and that much better. Pick number 9, the New Orleans Saints. They go, or I would draft. I say they go. I would bring in Mykel Williams, the edge rusher out of Georgia. This guy has, if you look at his stats, it's not overly packed with like great production, and it's not like this guy is the number 1 edge rusher. This guy's blowing the doors off of all of these crazy things, but he's reliable. He gets to the quarterback. He plays the run. He plays almost every snap. He reminds me of a guy that can learn from Cam Jordan perfectly. And bringing back Cam Jordan, who's now, I believe, I want to say, and this might be wrong, but 15th year, 15 seasons in the NFL, which is insane. Allowing Cam Jordan to continue to do what he does at the level that he does, teaching a guy like Mykel Williams to come off the edge. I believe they brought back Chase Young. You could have a developmental player in Mykel Williams that develops himself into that next role, and you have to get cheaper players. You have to bring in younger players. We see that the Saints have done so much gymnastics throughout the cap situations, the casualties that they've been facing. Bringing in a guy like this can set up your D-line, and one of the positions that's becoming the most expensive positions. He can lock your edge rusher position down for the next 3 years, and you won't have to pay him like a Myles Garrett, a TJ Watt, even what Aiden Hutchinson's about to get up there in Detroit. I really like Mykel Williams, and I really, really like what the New Orleans Saints have done to free up cap room and space and all this stuff. It was really a bad situation. I mean, tens of millions of dollars in negative cap money. They've actually removed themselves from being in the last place on the cap casualty list to about that mid-range. Bravo, congratulations to them. I really like adding an edge rusher. It could be any of these edge rushers, but Mykel Williams for me is the second best overall prospect at that edge rusher position as of right now. Okay. Number 10, and a team that in the Chicago Bears, I have them selecting Ashton Jeanty, the running back out of Boise State. Bears won the offseason with the Ben Johnson hire. I firmly believe that. They revamped their offensive line completely to get the number 1 center in Drew Dahlman. They go out, trade for Joe Tooney. They have Darnell Wright at right tackle, who I think was one of the best tackles coming out of the draft. He's young. He is a true right tackle, and he's gonna anchor that position right there. They bring in Jonah Jackson, who played guard in Detroit with Ben Johnson. He's going to go ahead and play right guard. That whole offensive line is revamped. Left tackle still a little bit up in the air. I know that Braxton Jones is not a bad option. He still has some probably developmental things. You could probably go out and get a left tackle if you really wanted to. Caleb Williams is going to be protected. The one thing that I feel like that offense is missing is a true number 1, number 2, 1-2 punch, thunder and lightning tandem in that running back room, because when all else fails, when your quarterback is rattled and you're struggling to throw the ball, you want to be able to turn around and hand the ball off to not 1 but 2 dynamic running backs behind 4 offensive linemen, potentially 5 through the draft, that are just rock solid maulers, game changers. Swift and Jeanty together in the backfield would be an awesome thing for Chicago. This pick, if it's not Jeanty and Genty's available, it might be Hampton if they like Hampton more, or it might be a left tackle. I'm going to go ahead and say if I was Ryan Poles and I was the general manager of the Chicago Bears, I would go ahead and bring in Ashton Genty. You lock him up, get a 5-year deal on him with that first round contract. He can pass block. He can do everything that you need him to do. Couple that with what you did in the offseason with adding to the offensive line and making some moves. The Chicago Bears could be in a very, very good position to win and win day one. Pick number 11, the San Francisco 49ers. I would draft Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan. Now, the San Francisco 49ers, I feel like, have lost more players than they have gained. They've lost more quality players than they're gaining in quality players. The Hufanga losing him, I guess you can say, or letting him walk was a shock. And it was a big shock, at least to me. I think he had some injury concerns and it was hard for him to stay healthy. But the back end is so kind of in shambles, and they lose Ward. They lose Hufanga. The defensive back situation, I think, is a problem right now for the 49ers. To get back to playing good football, you have to play good defense. And that starts with your DBs for San Francisco, because their defensive line has taken some hits and some issues through free agency. Bringing in Will Johnson, who I think arguably for a lot of people outside of Travis Hunter, because he's more of like an athlete, is that corner number one. His production's a little low because he only played, I think it was 6 games. So having that not big of a tape from this past season, you have to look back to older seasons or past seasons. The guy's a lockdown corner. He can be corner number one. And in a division where you're starting to see some guys really kind of take that next step as far as those receivers in those receiver rooms. You got to play Puka Nacua. You got to play, I'm blanking on Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, these are guys that you need to shut down and make sure that they don't tear apart your team. Was DK Metcalf, but now that he's out in Seattle, we see Jackson Smith and Jigba that needs to be locked down. If Cooper Kupp comes there, he's going to need to be locked down. Devontae Adams is now with the Rams. There's a lot of pieces that you have to stop through that aerial attack throughout that division. I think Will Johnson gives you that ability day one. Pick number 12, the Dallas Cowboys. I say the biggest important thing for the Dallas Cowboys to do is keep Dak Prescott healthy. I don't know how hard that is. I mean, you pay the guy all this money. He's your starting quarterback, and you can't seem to keep him on the field for 16 games. 17 now, the season 17 games, 18 weeks, let's just say. In order to make the playoffs and to make a push towards the Super Bowl is what Jerry Jones wants to see in his lifetime, which isn't even that much longer probably. You have to protect your quarterback. If you cannot go to the Super Bowl theoretically with backups and third string quarterbacks, get yourself a left tackle. I would draft Kelvin Banks out of Texas. He's a true left tackle. He's a big, athletic, physical offensive lineman. He had a little bit of an injury towards the end of the season, but he comes in, he's going to be a day one starter. You don't want to have to kick Smith out to left tackle. He's found a home there at guard. They've made some free agency moves that have been questionable. Bring in a couple running backs. I know a lot of people have them mocked, I guess is what you call it, or drafting a running back if Genty falls. Yeah, maybe, but they bring in a couple running backs. They pay them some money. Get yourself a left tackle. Get yourself somebody that can protect. Invest in that offensive line. Revamp your offensive line. Keep Dak Prescott healthy. And get yourself a guy that can start day one at left tackle that you don't have to worry about moving forward. Pick number 13. This is going to be a trend now for the next couple picks. The Miami Dolphins, Armand Membu, a true right tackle. Again, Miami's biggest problem, like Dallas, is keeping Tua healthy. The best way to keep Tua healthy is not adding speedsters at wide receiver or adding dynamic, explosive track stars at running back. Your best bet is to protect your quarterback. Protect him from getting hit. Get yourself, who a lot of people, and I don't know if I'm there yet, but Membu for a lot of people is the number one tackle in this year's draft. Being a right tackle, it doesn't seem like there's a better fit than merging him with the Miami Dolphins, who have a left-handed quarterback. His blind side's protected just like Dak Prescott's blind side's now protected. Membu can be a day one starter. He's athletic. He's really agile, and he will be your starter at right tackle for as long as Tua's the quarterback and probably beyond that. Keep Tua healthy. It makes your team better. Pick number 14. Like I said, we're going to see a run on offensive linemen because this is what these teams have been moving away from. Pick number 14 is the Indianapolis Colts. I have them taking Will Campbell. And yes, that is a shock. Campbell falls outside the top 10. A lot of people have him in that top 10, have him as the first tackle off the board. I think he can play left tackle. And I think having him compete for that left tackle position in Indianapolis is key. But I also think that he can slide inside. Watching him at the combine, the guy's athletic enough and he can probably play on the right side as well, right guard, right tackle. He's going to open up. Now, he's not playing left guard. We know that because Quentin Nelson is probably the most dynamic, nasty interior offensive lineman that the NFL has right now. He's staying at left guard. But now you open up the door for competition at right guard, at left tackle, even at center maybe, where this guy could be in one of those positions. And if he doesn't play this year because you can't find a spot, he's there to relieve anybody that gets hurt along that offensive line, giving your guy in Anthony Richardson the QB competition, whether it's Daniel Jones who gets the starting role or Anthony Richardson. Keeping them protected is going to be key into the development of both of these guys. Daniel Jones took a beating at the Giants. AR likes to take a beating. He runs around and gets hit 100 times a game. Let's build them a pocket. Let's see what they can do from the pocket. Let's see if we can get a good quarterback play and trajectory out of the Indianapolis Colts with a good offensive line and bringing in who most people believe is probably the best offensive lineman in the draft in Will Campbell out of LSU. Pick number 15, my favorite player in this draft, hands down. Where are we at? The Atlanta Falcons. Drew Dahlman's gone, right? You let him walk in free agency. I am eyeing his replacement right now. They re-signed Jake Matthews at tackle, so we don't have to worry about the tackle position in round one. Atlanta Falcons go out and get Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. He's a versatile offensive lineman. He's a day one starter at center in the NFL, and he will be a day one starter in the NFL for the foreseeable future. Probably have a 10 to 15-year career, and he will do everything he can to make sure Michael Penix does not get hit, and he is a smart, instinctual offensive lineman who is physical and nasty, and he will fit into that whole scheme perfectly. Atlanta has lost a lot of key components to their team. I think they're going to move on from Kirk Cousins. I think losing Drew Dahlman was a big deal. They released Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett. I think that's his name. The interior defensive lineman. I'm blanking and spacing. This rock star is not kicking in at the moment. They're losing pieces to their team. Bringing in a day one starting center is the most important thing for Atlanta to do right now to replace Dahlman and keep the young quarterback in Michael Penix comfortable and happy in that pocket. Pick number 16, Arizona Cardinals. They've invested in their defensive line. They bring in Josh Sweat. They bring in other edge players. They re-sign a bunch of players. They re-sign 2 veteran pieces on their offensive line. If I'm their general manager, I'm drafting Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. He can plug and play day one. He takes the pressure off of your new edge rushers. Put him over the center, put him over, that A gap, B gap. He is going to be disruptive on the inside. The guy can pass rush. He can stop the run. He had a monster week at the Senior Bowl. The guy has put his name into that top 20 realm consistently over everything that we've seen. Just looking at him physically when he was at the combine, he is built to be an interior defensive lineman. He is built with the attitude and the presence to make a difference on a defensive line. I think Arizona will fall in love with him. I think when he gets down there, it will only open up things on the outside for those pass rushers. I would mimic kind of what the Eagles did. Josh Sweat was very effective because the interior D linemen of the Philadelphia Eagles were so dominant, allowing a guy like Josh Sweat one-on-one pass rush opportunities over and over and over again. Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, I think, is a perfect fit for the Arizona Cardinals. He'll be a day one starter. This is an interesting one. Pick 17 is the Cincinnati Bengals. I have them going James Pierce. I would draft James Pierce here from Tennessee. The guy is super fast, super athletic, has some question marks in his personality, I guess is what they're saying. His overall production hasn't been to the level of somebody that is that freaky in nature should have. But just like Trey Hendrickson, just like Sam Hubbard, who are both going to be, Sam Hubbard retires out of Cincinnati, and Hendrickson will probably be traded. Those guys came to Cincinnati and got better. Sam Hubbard drafted to Cincinnati, had a steady career where he kept getting better and better and better every year. Trey Hendrickson, he came from New Orleans. I think that's where he got traded from. And just kept getting better and better and better and better at Cincinnati, where now he's the sack king and the leader of the whole entire NFL. I think James Pierce has that ability to get into Cincinnati and become dynamic. They do a lot of deals during free agency. They reassign D tackles, they bring in D tackles, they secure the interior of that D line, get a guy like James Pierce on the outside who with his speed and athletic ability, and let him hunt that quarterback. I think you found yourself a good replacement for Trey Hendrickson and probably an even better replacement for Sam Hubbard. Pick 18, the Seattle Seahawks. And I would draft Emeka Egbuka, Ohio State wide receiver, and Ibuka is probably going to be pissed because now he's going to be wide receiver number 2 to Jackson Smith-Njigba again. But the combination of those two guys, what they did in college was fantastic. What they can do in the NFL at Seattle would be even better. It gets Sam Darnold another weapon to throw the ball to because now DK Metcalf is gone. You got to have that 1-2 punch. Emeka Egbuka is a bona fide number 2. He flourishes in that number 2 role. Teaming him up with his buddy in Jackson Smith-Njigba in Seattle would make Sam Darnold probably the happiest guy on draft day, and he would get to throw to 2 guys that are savvy, smart, explosive wide receivers. And if Emeka Egbuka is double covered, Jackson Smith is one-on-one, and vice versa. It will be a healthy marriage, and it will help Sam Darnold in his continued progression and not regression out there in Seattle. I love the pick for Egbuka here. I love the pick for any receiver here. You lose DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett in Seattle. Yes, we can go offensive line, but most of those higher ranked offensive linemen are gone. I think if they do slip to Seattle, they would probably not hesitate to draft one of them. But Emeka Egbuka, a solid pick for the Seattle Seahawks. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 19. Tyler Booker out of Alabama, I think, should be a solid lock pick here for Tampa Bay. He adds help on the interior offensive line. They need to, yes, we have high draft picks that we've invested in the offensive line, but we need to continue to secure the offensive line to help Baker Mayfield stay upright, stay clean. We can't have him keep getting hit. We need him to be able to deliver the ball. Our offense is based on so many different components, and we have so many talented wide receivers and great running backs out of the backfield. We got to be able to pass block, and we got to be able to secure at least the interior offensive line, similar to kind of the Indianapolis situation. If Booker comes in and doesn't start day one, that's not the worst thing in the world. I think you have a NFL starting guard that you draft at 19 who can sit. Maybe he comes in halfway through the season. Maybe somebody's playing bad. There's an injury. Whenever he takes over at that starting role, he will be the starter at whatever position on the offensive line, interior offensive line he starts at for that foreseeable future. You get Baker Mayfield, a new best friend, and Tampa Bay is super stoked to have this guy. Pick number 20, the Denver Broncos. Now, I would draft, I keep saying I have them taking, but it's really what I would take. I would take Matthew Golden, the wide receiver out of Texas. The guy's a supreme athlete. He's super fast. He his production, he almost had 1,000 yards receiving, and he really only played like the second half of the college football season due to Isaiah Bond being injured, which I think, as terrible as it is, I think that was the best thing for Matthew Golden because now he becomes a first round draft pick. Denver needs another receiver. I had them looking towards that tight end position. I really thought, there was going to be a need for that tight end, that kind of safety blanket for Bo Nix. But they go out and they get Evan Ingram, who still has game left, who still is and can be one of the better tight ends in the NFL. I think adding Matthew Golden with a guy like Sutton that's there, with Bo Nix and what he was able to do, there's other pieces on that Denver offense in that receiver room that contribute here and there and throughout the process. But Matthew Golden would be a solid number 2 wide receiver. He has so much explosive ability, and Sean Payton can really, really use the counterbalance of the run game with Bo Nix, with Matthew Golden and Cortland Sutton, kind of different play styles in a way, but I think it would be the perfect marriage. And I like Matthew Golden in this spot a little more than like a guy like Luther Burden, just for that explosive overall downfield deep threat that they have, and like that they like to push the ball down the field in Denver. So I would go Matthew Golden. I think he could find himself being drafted higher than 20. If he's available at 20, I don't think the Broncos hesitate. Here's another interesting one. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I would draft Omarion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina. His combine was out of control. He is smooth, he's fluid, he's big, he's physical. He has everything you want in a running back, and he screams a Pittsburgh Steelers running back. Kind of has that Najee Harris vibe to him. Najee goes to the Chargers. They bring in Kenneth Gainwell. I think that's who it was down there in Pittsburgh. Assuming that Aaron Rodgers lands in Pittsburgh, having a monster running back like Omarion Hampton helps everything that they need to do through Rodgers. They add Metcalf, they have Pickens, they have Freiermuth. We have gone over the possibility of the Pittsburgh Steelers adding Aaron Rodgers, adding a dynamic runner like Omarion Hampton. You could revamp the offensive line a little bit, could add some pieces on the defense, but that would be a very, very, very staple moment for the Steelers to, if Rodgers signs there draft day 1, saying, here you go, here's your new bell cow. Omarion Hampton is a guy that could play every single rep through a 17-game season and give you ultra production. He's worth the first round pick. A lot of people I know have him as the number one running back in this year's draft. A lot of people think that he'll be a day 1 starter and can really, really become that next running back that the NFL falls in love with. Pick 22, the Los Angeles Chargers. As I mentioned, that they get Najee Harris, so their running back room is pretty much situated. Colston Loveland out of Michigan, pairing him back up with Harbaugh would be like the marriage of a lifetime. Loveland had his best years under Harbaugh. There is a huge need for the Chargers to add weapons, pass catching weapons. It doesn't have to be receiver. Most of us are sitting here thinking Chargers are going to go with receiver, add receiver to help, McConkey and Herbert and Harbaugh's way of doing things. He needs weapons. But there's nothing wrong with adding a guy like Colston Loveland, who before his injury was probably a top 15 pick. He slides a little bit. He's going to be a staple for that offense, and I think he has a great NFL career out there in Los Angeles. And it's a perfect fit. Why not bring in a guy that will perform for you every single day? And he is that culture that Harbaugh is looking for. Colston Loveland out of Michigan, I think it's a perfect fit. Do I force that pick a little bit? Yes, of course I do. But I think that is probably what will happen if Colston Loveland's available at 22. I think the Chargers sprint to submit that name in that card. Pick 23. The Green Bay Packers have done some interesting type of things throughout the years of drafting and adding and this and that. They've re-signed a few of their key pieces, Adding a guy like Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M would be a monster pick. He gets after the quarterback. He's got high energy, high motor. He is a violent pass rusher. He is very good in the run game. He can easily be a top 10 pick. He can easily be the pick for the New Orleans Saints at 9. He is that good. His upside is that good. His production, a little low at Texas A&M. But what we saw at the Senior Bowl, I mean, this guy performed so well at the Senior Bowl that he bounced halfway through it. Was like, yep, that's it. Yeah, and that could say a lot about character and personality, but having that fire, that attitude, that energy, that adrenaline pumped into a young defense, they're the youngest team in the NFL. But bringing in a guy like that can just spark energy. One sack, this guy will send himself to the moon with excitement, will energize your whole team. He is a fire starter, and I think he's a day one starter as a pass rusher, and I think he can develop into a very, very, very good option for a long period of time for the Packers who, there it is again, just hitting everything in here. I think the Packers, Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, perfect fit for the Packers and what they need to do and what they're trying to do, get physical, get that hard edge back in Green Bay. 24, another top tier type of edge rusher, I guess that's on people's lists. The Minnesota Vikings, who are winning the free agency, who came off of one of the best seasons that we could have ever anticipated, not even with their starting quarterback. They get rid of Kirk Cousins. They bring in J.J. McCarthy, who gets hurt. You're really on your third option at quarterback at Sam Darnold, and they just execute at a very high level. Kevin O'Connell wins Coach of the Year. I would bring in Mike Green out of Marshall, a high energy, a highly explosive, highly productive edge rusher. Couple him with Grenard, who's on the other side, who's out of control, good at getting after the quarterback and playing the run. And you pair him with the top 2 defensive tackles that were on the market. One wasn't even anticipated being on the market, and Allen and Hargrave. That front 4 right there is insanity. And if they can stay healthy and produce at a high level like we know all 4 of them can, that might be the scariest defensive line in all of the NFL, even stacking up against the Eagles. And that is a great way to win. And it's a great way that if you're going to roll with J.J. McCarthy and a young quarterback who's never played, build your defense. And that's what they're doing. Mike Green is a huge piece to what they want to do in Minnesota. They are going to be instantly the favorites. And imagine if they add Mike Green and somehow, some way they sneak out a deal with Aaron Rodgers. My money's on them to go to the Super Bowl. Okay, pick 25. The Houston Texans. I'm almost speechless at this point. Laramie Tunsil being traded out, now you have to replace him. And I don't know if they believe they have somebody already in mind or if they're going to go get somebody. If the left tackle position is not solidified by the draft, I would draft Josh Simmons here out of Ohio State. I understand he had an injury, but everything is pointing in the direction that he will be back day 1 for training camp. He will be ready to go day 1, game 1, preseason 1, whatever you want to call it. He will be ready to play. I'm willing to risk him not playing this year over him playing this year. I'm not sure if I got that right. The risk versus reward on Josh Simmons is worth it because if healthy, if he played this whole year, he's the number 1 tackle in this draft class, hands down. There is no conversation. He is that good and he is that reliable of an offensive lineman. I would bring him in. That's a perfect replacement for Laramie Tunsil. He plays left tackle. He will bolster your offensive line. He will anchor it, and maybe Houston, in the method of all of the chaos, trades out Laramie Tunsil because they know Josh Simmons will be available. They'll draft him. It's a cheaper option, and they get younger. Who knows? The Laramie Tunsil thing was a huge surprise. I don't know if anybody saw that coming other than the Houston Texans and the Washington Commanders because like the Joe Thuney situation, I feel like a lot more teams would have been interested in trading for Tunsil. I know I would have. But Josh Simmons is a great fit, is a great prospect, and he's a great person overall to risk, wager, whatever you want to call it, risk versus reward on your offensive line to protect Stroud moving forward. Pick 26 is kind of an interesting one. I think there's going to be people that have some theories about this, but the Los Angeles Rams, I would draft Jalen Walker, linebacker slash edge player. He's versatile, can kind of do both. His production isn't crazy. His overall stats aren't unbelievable, but he's a leader. He can run your defense. He came out of Georgia, so you know he's well coached. And if there's anything that the Rams like that we've learned is young, functional defensive players that can develop over a course of their rookie season to be dominant. I think this guy has the ability to be dominant. Jalen Walker is a perfect piece to what that defense is and the direction that they're going in. Their front seven is already really good. Adding Jalen Walker to that front seven will make them even better. So Jalen Walker out of Georgia, I don't really know where to put him in the categories of what teams are going to draft him. I think it's hard right now to draft any of these linebackers in the first round, kind of due to this, is it worth the linebacker pick over a lot of these other position players that are really good? But I think the Rams, given the way that the board has fallen, I think Jalen Walker will probably be one of the higher players on their board, and I don't think that they hesitate to draft him. By the way, did we see the video of Sean McVay squatting like 12,000 pounds? Like, no idea that was even possible. That guy's a maniac. No wonder Devontae Adams went there. No wonder everybody seemingly wants to play with this guy. Out of control coach. Awesome personality. I wonder what Coach Gould was thinking. My old coach, Coach Gould, who recruited me there. Did he see this video? I'm going to have to reach out to him and ask him what he thinks about his head coach squatting, a baby cow on his back, because that was impressive. Good for Sean McVay, good for Coach Gould and the entire Rams organization. But my word, was that impressive. Maybe that will inspire a guy like Jalen Walker to have 400 tackles in a season. Who knows? Pick 27. Let's get this rolling. This video is going a little long. Baltimore Ravens add another weapon at the receiver position, Luther Burden, who is going to come in, and he's going to be coupled with a Zay Flowers and a Bateman, who came on at the end of the year. They add D-Hop, who's a veteran presence that I still think has a lot of juice left in the tank. Add Luther Burden paired with your two tight ends in Henry and Likely. You still got Derrick Henry running the ball. Did I say Henry at tight end? Andrews and Likely at tight end. Henry running the ball. Wow, we are getting off here. We're getting. This is what we need. Lamar Jackson. Ronnie Stanley comes back. We'll invest in the offensive line through rounds 2 through 4. Luther Burden is an explosive receiver, a great athlete. He will be a really good number 2, really good number 3, or really good number 4, depending on how Bateman and Hop kind of develop. Luther Burden studying and learning from a guy like Hopkins. I think that receiver room is owed somebody like DeAndre Hopkins to kind of teach them, train them, work with them. I think Luther Burden would be a phenomenal addition to the Baltimore Ravens, and it adds more weapons and more ability for Lamar Jackson to continue his push towards greatness. Pick 28. I'm drafting Jahad Barron out of Texas. He slips dramatically in the draft, not by any fault of his own, not because he's not a great player. I think he has the ability to be that second corner off the board behind Will Johnson, behind even Travis Hunter. I think him going 11 makes a lot of sense to the 49ers and the defense that he plays, and the defensive role that he plays with the defense that the 49ers have. But based on other needs and fits and scenarios, he falls to Detroit. And I think Dan Campbell, this guy loves hard-nosed, physical, humble, but guys that will come and hit you in the mouth type of players. Jahad Barron is one of those guys. If he falls to Detroit, Detroit will be flipping over the moon with excitement. He will lock down that corner position. On the other side of, they bring in DJ Reed. Yes, they have Terrion Arnold, who they drafted, was it the first or second round? 3 all-star corners will secure your back end and will just make your defense even better. They've done so much work in free agency and re-signing contract movements, bringing in certain pieces that they wanted. They're instituting a culture, and they live and die by that culture. Jahad Barron will be a part of that culture. He'll be a phenomenal piece to that puzzle. At pick 28. Pick 29, I have Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, another guy that slips down the board. Washington Commanders need to find a replacement for Jonathan Allen, and they need a younger, cheaper version. Kenneth Grant's that guy. For as big and as physical as he is and how hard he plays so many snaps. Similar to Detroit and Dan Campbell, Dan Quinn in Washington wants that culture. He's trying to institute that culture. He's trying to make sure his team is young but talented enough to keep him employed and pushing towards the playoffs and a Super Bowl run eventually within the next few years. I think Grant comes in, he starts day one, and he secures that interior defensive line for the Washington Commanders. Pick 30, this is a very interesting pick. It's a very interesting spot. The Buffalo Bills. I have them drafting. I would draft if I was them. I keep saying that. I'm so conditioned to think that that's how it goes. Nick Emanwari, the safety out of South Carolina, Batman himself, big, strong, physical, explosive, out of control athlete, overly talented. Yes, he has some flaws to his game, but there are guys in Buffalo that make the most out of safeties, corners, and nickel corners who don't really have all of the skills and all of the traits that you want to see. Somehow they play their best football and they get maximum money everywhere they go. This guy fits everything they want and has the ability that they haven't seen before. He will be a dynamic piece of that Buffalo defense and exactly what Buffalo needs to get over that hump. I believe that would be a no-brainer pick. Nick Emanwari, who blew up the combine and would just, I think the Buffalo Bills will be beyond thrilled if this guy falls to 30. There is no hesitation if I'm the GM there to submit that card. 31, the Kansas City Chiefs. We know that they've invested in their offensive line, kind of a backup tackle from the 49ers. It's no secret that they need to fix this offensive line. Josh Connerly out of Oregon, who's one of the most pure, highest potential probably left tackles in this entire draft out of Oregon. He's got smooth feet. He's got great balance. He has one bad rep at the Senior Bowl that goes viral. Overall, his tape is great. He plays great football. He is a reliable offensive lineman. He will come in, compete for the left tackle position, and I almost will bet and guarantee that he wins the starting tackle position day one for the Kansas City Chiefs. They need to invest in offensive line until they get it right again. That is the guy to do it with. And last but not least, I struggled to make this pick. I've erased this pick like 20 times as well. Super Bowl champs, Philadelphia Eagles. I would draft Malachi Starks out of Georgia. I've put him into the first round. I had him in the second round, mid-second round. This guy's versatile. He can play safety, he can play corner, he can play nickel. The Eagles have lost some significant pieces on their back end. Now with the young guys that they drafted becoming those starters, you need to fill the role that those guys were playing. Malachi Starks is smart. He's instinctual. He's played a lot of football. He fits that defense and what they want to do perfectly, and I don't think it's a wasted pick to keep adding to your defensive backfield. Yes, you can go defensive line. Their defensive line is still pretty stacked with even the guys that they've lost. They've bolstered a lot of good positions. They've re-signed Barkley. They've done a lot of good things. I think Malachi Starks helps you continue to win football games and secures that back end of that defense with some of those pieces that were missing. So there's Mock It Up Friday. That is picks 1 through 32 with implications of how free agency affected them, how I think those players fit those teams. I think that that list is going to change probably 400 times between now and April. But I can't thank you guys enough for tuning into this. I can't believe I've put this much time and effort into being in front of a camera or a microphone. Like I've said, I'm not much of that guy. Appreciate everybody that likes, comments, shares, subscribes. Keep up all of that. I will see you guys on Monday for our March Madness kind of kickoff and festivities. But until then, have a great weekend. Best of luck to all of the NFL teams, everybody's favorite NFL team out there as they push through free agency. Hopefully, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson have made a decision during the process of me making this video. If not, we will still be up in the air, and we probably will be talking about it on Monday as well. So for everybody here at Chalk Talk, all the Deal With It Productions, the family cast and crew, I'm Preston Deal. I can't thank you enough for watching and being a part of this journey. Until Monday, I will see you then. Peace.